Hello there. With the Championship sides off last week, the N-Power Football League was back to full strength on Saturday with all 72 sides in action. And as we're on a little later than usual, Lizzie's got the night off, so keep those emails and texts for next week. But we do have Leroy with us to take us through the day's action, and there's plenty to look forward to tonight. There's a real buzz about Cardiff at the moment. Could this be the year they make it to the Premier League? Hoping to clip the Bluebirds' wings on Saturday were Hull City. There's nothing quite like a tasty Lancashire derby on the football calendar. Looking to serve up a treat for us were Burnley and Preston. A fond farewell? It's been a turbulent week for Nigel Adkins and Scunthorpe, but his move to Southampton is on hold for the time being. We'll see how Scunny copes with the speculation as they took on Bristol City.
And in League Two, relegated last season and just out of administration, who would take on the challenge of managing Stockport County? I've been spending the day at Edgeley Park with Paul Simpson and his family.
Now, just 25 miles separate Burnley from Preston, so this Lancashire derby was always going to be a feisty affair. And as you may have seen earlier, it certainly lived up to its billing. Burnley started the day in 5th, while this season has been more of a struggle for Preston, who'd only managed to score once in the league so far. Well, David Edgar returned to the Clarets' starting lineup for the suspended Tyrone Mears at right-back. Preston, without an away win or an away goal, started with John Parkin. Top scorer Paul Hayes was on the bench. Commentary from Martin Keown and Steve Wilson.
Edgar. Martin Patterson. Corner kick. It's Ross Wallace with the corner. Dropped it right into the danger zone. Now did it cross the line? Yes, it did. And Wellerman gets the goal.
Just look at it from this angle. Wellerman gets up well and very much over the line.
Oh, absolutely.
Thankfully, the officials have got it right.
Keith Tracy is the man standing on the line for Preston.
There's no doubt there. The ball's completely over the line.
Oh, Barton, great chance. Barton for Preston, 1-1. Adam Barton with the equaliser. Well, Burnley aren't happy. They're wondering whether he didn't handle this, I think.
Well, he certainly has. It's come off his hand. The thing he has, though, he has a presence of mind to stay calm at the end of it and slot it away. But the referee, I'm afraid, has got that one wrong. Definitely a handball.
Well, another man down, that's Josh King, and it's getting a little bit feisty here. King is off the field of play, which is why the game has carried on, and now it's really kicking off. Wade Elliott getting involved with Billy Jones, and suddenly we've got most of both teams tussling around the corner flag.
Well, look at that, he's wrapped his arm around him. There's a bit of afters there.
Wade Elliott shown the yellow card, and I would imagine that Billy Jones will get the same. Well, he'll be, of course, following his son's career closely. Did a marvellous job at Peterborough, really. 2 successive promotions.
By 17, Paul Parry.
As you can hear, Paul Parry has come on in place of King, and Tracy's hit the woodwork. Keith Tracy, who hit the bar against Sheffield United a fortnight ago, has hit the woodwork again here. Edgar couldn't get back to his feet, and Keith Tracy onto it quickly. Oh, and he scored! That's a really good goal by Tracy. And Preston, having been a goal down at Turf Moor, are now 2-1 up.
I mean, you talk about players, Giggs, you think of playing on that number 11 shirt for Manchester United, and he's played like him today. Again, it's a sweet strike, and this boy can play. And when he gets into that position, he still has a lot to do. I mean, puts it in the corner, just picks it out, just looks up before he strikes it, and that's a great goal for them.
Oh, Wallace must play on, rightly so. Really well struck by Marnie. It's an excellent save from Lonergan. Didn't Marnie latch onto this?
Well, he did. We talked about Marnie getting forward, and again, that's a great strike.
Barton smashing it away downfield, and Paul Parry chasing it. 2 back for Burnley, Parry up for Preston. Yard wide.
Well, that's just one hopeful pass. It just splits their defence, which is worrying for Burnley.
And it was so nearly a 2-goal cushion for Preston. Good challenge by Barton. He's been outstanding today, Adam Barton.
Superb, wasn't it? Just recognised the danger, now playing in a slightly different position, the withdrawn midfield player, and still doing an excellent job.
And here's Keith Tracy trying to find Parkin. Great goal! Great goal! Burnley 1, Preston 3. John Parkin with a peach.
Well, I think in the build-up there, you saw the 3 most important players today. Barton winning it, Tracy's quality on the wing, and then Parkin getting on the end of things. And they've really been the dominant 3. And Preston can be delighted today with their evening's work.
There's a red card. Billy Jones is sent off. Time wasting. Had a yellow card in the first half, and he took too long to get the ball back into play, and Preston are down to 10 men. Here's Alexander. Iwelumo! Oh, fabulous goal! Iwelumo! It's 3-2.
Well, a stunning, absolute stunning goal. He's hardly done anything in the game in between his goals. That's a clinical finish, and just what they needed, just in the nick of time. It's a great diagonal ball. For me, he's just onside, and that is a clinical finish, as you'll see this season.
Graham Alexander. Iwelumo! He's done it! It's a hat-trick! What a fantastic hat-trick! It's 3-3.
Well, would you believe it? This man has been incredible. We talked about him not doing a great deal in the game earlier. He's got a hat-trick.
It's 3-3. Oh, look at that.
I'm sure the Ferguson household's going to be a happy one tonight.
Can't believe it, can you? Lightning strikes twice in a day for a Ferguson manager. BK looking for Iwelumo. Claiming a foul. It's a corner. Well, if they can get it on his head, it could well be a Burnley win. A corner taken. In it goes. Free header, 4-3! Rodriguez! And Preston have thrown it away! You've never seen anything like this! Burnley 4, Preston 3!
Wow, it's quite incredible. Ronnie Yeager's there, coming off the bench, looking great since he's been off the bench, and he's maybe scored the winner now.
I'm bitterly disappointed. The game, we're in complete control. We've dominated the game, the only team that played any football. The referees won it for Burnley, simple as that. I know my time in football, I've never seen a sending off for that. An absolute disgrace of a decision.
An incredible game. It's one of not many games I've been involved in like that, but as I said, it's great for the spectators, but from the manager's point of view, we're very disappointed because there's too many negatives that's come out of the game, but we'll certainly take the big positive out of it, and hopefully that'll be something that we'll look back on and think, well, that might have been the catalyst for us to go on and do well.
We were all disappointed after the Swansea match defeat, but we've had 2 weeks. Like I say, it's a great bunch of lads. We've dug in, worked on the negatives in training, and we've created chances. We've scored 4 goals in a derby match, which it's just one of them. Like I say, it's a fantastic day for everyone. I think it was a great spectacle. Like I said, everyone's delighted.
So not a great day all in all for the Fergusons. A terrific one, however, for Burnley. I mean, you'd struggle to fit anything else in that game, would you?
No, it was breathless, and You know, in derbies, you usually expect it to be tight and to get tackles in. That wasn't the case. It was open, free, and plenty of goals, and I'm sure the Burnley supporters will be delighted.
We heard from Darren Ferguson there, saying that the sending off was instrumental as to the outcome. He'd never seen anything in football in his 20 years. Do you agree with him? Was this a ridiculous decision by Kevin Friend?
Well, he seems very impatient. He warns Billy Jones there, and then Billy Jones picks the ball up, and then he seems to react very, very quickly, gets very impatient very quickly, and doesn't really give him a chance. And I've seen people take ages over throws and not be punished. I've seen keepers take ages over kicking the ball out, and referees not take any action. But in a game like this, for him to react like that was poor, I think, and I think you'll be disappointed with that, Kevin.
Is that because he was under pressure from the home fans, or what?
Absolutely. You could hear the Burnley supporters baying for him to get on with it. They were 3-1 down at the time. Preston were in control of the game, and he's just reacted in a poor way, and really it did give the impetus back to Burnley.
As for Chris Uwulumu, well, he's going to take some of the headlines, isn't he? I mean, what a hat-trick, and he took one of these goals particularly well. Oh,
it was a great hat-trick, but I've seen Chris Uwulumu do this on many occasions, outstrength his defender, get in front, but the Graham Alexander twice put 2 terrific balls in. He's totally unmarked, but what a great finish. He's still got a finish, and he finishes it well. And what Preston would be disappointed with, they didn't get any pressure on the ball, and when quality is going in the box, you've got someone like Uwulumu in there, you've got to try and stop the cross and make sure that it doesn't get in there with the sort of quality that it got in there today.
And we have said this before, when he played for Wolves at this level, he can score you goals.
Absolutely, he is a handful at any level, but if you give him the right sort of ammunition, he'll take it, and they did today. Graham Alexander was excellent, his distribution was very, very good.
Yeah, not a great day all in all for Preston as well, because I know Josh King and Matt James are both going off for X-rays. Now we go to South Wales, and the team that began the day joined top of the Championship, Cardiff City. The Bluebirds have made an unbeaten start to the season and are looking to win 4 games on the trot for the first time in 4 years. Their opponents were Hull, who struggled in the opening weeks thanks in part to a wretched away record. No better time than to pick up 3 points for their manager Nigel Pearson, who was back in the dugout after illness. The Bluebirds were without Craig Bellamy, Jay Bothroyd and Michael Chopra. Jason Kumas and Andy Keogh made their first league starts. Say Olofinjana, on loan from Hull, started for Cardiff, while Anthony Gerrard made his Hull debut against his parent club. Daniel Ayala is also in the Tigers team after an emergency loan deal was agreed with Liverpool. Commentary comes from Martin Fisher.
Whittingham, brilliant. Away from Dawson, pulling it back here for McPhail. Didn't really get hold of it there, Stephen McPhail. Beautiful run by Peter Whittingham, though. And Stephen McPhail in for the first time this season today. Just steered it the wrong side. And good to see Nigel Pearson back in the dugout for Hull City after his health scare 2 weeks ago. Here's McNaughton. Held up by Dawson. Now Burke, blocked by Kilban. And the assistant referee far side, Tim Robinson, with his flag up to indicate the free kick. And Whittingham will take. Gipesh and Hudson, the central defenders, up from the back, ready to attack this. Whittingham's delivery, and it's in! And would you believe it? The Hull City player, the man on loan at Cardiff City, gets the opening goal, Sei Olofinjana. And Olofinjana got ahead of Anthony Gerrard. The 2 players playing against their parent club today. Careless by Naylor. Ashby's chest pass for Garcia. Garcia goes for goal. All could bounce in front of David Marshall. And the Scot does what all goalkeepers are told to do in that situation. Get his body behind it. Turn it behind. Given away by Ayala. McNaughton sees a gap and goes for it. McNaughton. Oh! Against the post! Cheers all around the ground for the run there of Kevin McNaughton. Delicious run this by McNaughton. just saw the gap, ploughed on through, chanced his arm, and is there a touch from Matthew? Yes, there is. Fingers from the Hull City goalkeeper, otherwise it would have been 2-0 and McNaughton would have had his first goal in over 18 months. Important spell of the game this. If Hull can get back onto level terms, then they can get something from their trip to South Wales. If Cardiff get the next goal, you sense that it's beyond the men from Humberside. Here's Corran. Corran shots. Marshall always comfortable that was going wide of his goal. Encouraging this for Nigel Pearson. Kumas looking to shake off Gerrard. The angle is tight, but still went for goal. It's been forced away from goal by the angle of the pass. And just trying to fire it across Matt Duke's body into the far corner. Duke always had it covered. Jason Kumas, who last found the back of the opposition's net at Wigan on the opening day of last season. Now Whittingham. Beautiful trick to get away from McShane. And that was fabulous skill from Peter Whittingham. It was beautiful. Sensed the presence of McShane. The back heel through the legs of the opposition defender. A joy to see in a game that has been incredibly scrappy throughout. Here come Cardiff City looking for the second goal. Driven towards goal by Kumas, and it can't have been far wide, that one. Always the danger for Hull City if they push more and more bodies forward to try and get an equaliser. They might be caught out at the other end. It was bending at the last moment, this, but too late. Keogh's layoff. Whittingham. Wildig. Ray through the legs of Duke, and 2-0 Cardiff. And that settles it. Gavin Ray with his first goal for over a year. An inspired substitution from Dave Jones, one of the more unlikely goal scorers, it has to be said. Beautiful move by Cardiff City. Out of keeping with the rest of game, if truth be told. Wildig's little reverse ball, and Ray through the legs of the goalkeeper. And the challenge from Dawson. And it's game over. And it's a fourth successive victory for Cardiff City. Burks, Rob Kearney, and Cardiff looking for a third here. Keogh breaking to the right. Keogh, it wasn't the best of passes to him from Burke, to be fair. Just a pass here from Burke, a little bit slow, just had to adjust his stride there, and the shot is easily gathered. Well, they've had their highs in recent years, Hull City supporters, but not many on their travels of late. This latest defeat makes it 30 games for Hull away from the KC Stadium without a victory.
It's a good place to be at this moment. There's a great goodwill, good feel around the place, and everybody's buzzing. But I tell you what, they'll be back in on Monday, and it'll be down to the hard graft again, because that's what's got them the results. It isn't just down to having good players, it's down to the work ethic and all the hard work that goes on around this football club as well as out there.
We've still got a losing mentality away from home, and I think that's why have you got that hindrance of having a bit of a mental block. I think that makes it very, very difficult, but we'll keep working at it until we change it, because it will change, and it'll change through us taking responsibility for our own performances.
Fair to say that the first result you'll be looking for after you've come off the pitch for Hull will be Cardiff. Do you fancy them for promotion automatically this time?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. You know, they've got all the tools in place. You know, they've got some decent players. They'll let some decent players go out on loan as well. So, you know, hopefully they can do it. Yeah, you know, obviously I'll be looking out for the results.
Jimmy Bullard is still at the club. How close is he to getting a call up to the first team?
Well, I mean, it remains the same. The opportunity is there, and you know, if it's right and he's available and he wants to be a part of it, then there's no doubt in that he has ability and he may make a difference for us. But you'll have to wait and see.
Well, the Jimmy Bullard situation is an interesting one. I mean, according to reports, he was left out of the reserve side in midweek. He's fit and hasn't played since April. I mean, what is this? What's going on here? And what would you do if you were Nigel Pearson?
Well, you're just reading between the lines, what Nigel's saying, that the opportunity is there. Jimmy's at the club, they're paying his wages. Looking at their performance today, they need some sort of enthusiasm. Now, that's what Jimmy Bullard's about. Nigel said that they lack belief. Jimmy Bullard, I don't know any footballer who believes in his own ability more than Jimmy. So if they can get it together and get Jimmy playing, because that's what he wants to do, and Nigel wants him doing that. Obviously there's something going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, but if they can just put everything aside and get down to the business of playing football, he's going to be the one who's going to break that horrible away record.
It's certainly the last thing Hull need at the minute, especially with their away form the way it is. Now, we saw this last season, a player on loan scoring against their parent club. I think it was Marcel Seiberg scoring against Plymouth for Blackpool. Happened again this time round, and Sai Olafiniana really looked up for this contest, didn't he?
Well, it's Soslaw, and he would have been up for it, no doubt about it. But this is what he was brought into the club for: his defensive work, his presence in that centre of midfield, just putting the screen on the back four. But he turns up and does this. He gets between the two defenders, one of them being Gerrard, who's on loan at Hull, and gets his head on the end of it and gets a goal. I'm sure he's very pleased, and you might be making a few phone calls to some of his teammates.
That's the graft side of things. Here's the finesse, and obviously the Football League, maybe a few years ago, would have had this image of being all blood and thunder with no finesse. But Peter Whittingham shows you that this league is bursting with talent.
Absolutely. 20 goals last season in the league, and he can do this sort of thing. You know, and I think he's going to be a bit part player in terms of goals this season, but I think in terms of creativity, he's going to be really important to Cardiff with the sort of players that they've got, and he put on quite a decent show today.
It's been a brilliant start to the season for Cardiff. Let's catch up with some of the other games in the Championship then. And there were two early kick-offs, one of which involved a Midlands derby as Coventry welcomed Leicester down the M69.
The pressure is starting to build on Fox's manager Paulo Sousa. After arriving to plenty of fanfare at the start of the season, the side are still awaiting their first league win. And they made a bad start to this one. Coventry's Michael Mackinder replaced Gary McSheffrey with 10 minutes to go before half-time and made an impact straight away. His cross met by Clive Platt to score his first goal for the Sky Blues. It was Leicester who go on to dominate the match. Martin Waghorn joined the Foxes on deadline day after impressing last season on loan. He was equally impressive in his first game back, the woodwork denying him a dream return. Sousa's Swansea were criticised for a lack of cutting edge, despite some fine passing play last season. His new side seems similar. The Foxes dominated, but couldn't find their way past the impressive Kieran Westwood. Leicester got what they deserved, albeit with the help of the Coventry defence. Andy King made the most of a mix-up to finish superbly. His first goal since the first day of the season. Leicester still wait for their first league win. Tough games to come too against Cardiff and QPR.
Overall, I'm pleased. I think it's a positive result for us. We want to win, we want to beat our local rivals, but you've got to look at them and see where they were last year, where we were. They've got some good players, a big squad, and you know, we're a work in progress, and we hope to get beyond where they got to last year. But it is going to take a bit of time.
In the other early kick-off, two of the season's slow starters, Derby and Sheffield United, met at Pride Park. Jean Calvé made a memorable Blades debut a fortnight ago, scoring a stunning winner against Preston, and he was in the thick of it early on here too, with a cross that set up Richard Creswell, even though admittedly the defending from John Brayford and Sean Barker could have been sharper. Sheffield United were looking for their first away win of the season and were almost 2 up soon after. Stephen Bywater first foiled Ched Evans. And then so much time and space for Johnny Ertel, 2 words. oh dear. Derby pushed for the equaliser after the break, but they just couldn't find that elusive finish. Paul Green should have done better, but 3 points are a belated birthday present for Gary Speed, who turned 41 on Wednesday.
We felt we could have had a few more, but while it's 1-0 against a team like Derby, you're always thinking that they could sneak one, but thoroughly professional performance, and like I say, the boys did fantastic, then deserved the win.
We said to them every single game, we want to come off, and if we lose, we'll put our hands up and say, well, at least we had a go. It doesn't feel like that today.
3 wins and a draw have given Queen's Park Rangers fans hope their team can make a real promotion push. Last season, Middlesbrough won for the first time ever at Loftus Road, but never got close to reaching the heights of that 5-1 demolition this time. Perhaps they should have known. Neil Warnock has never even dropped a point at home against Bury in his time as a manager. And his Rangers team had the best chance of the first half here. Hogan Ephraim denied by Jason Steele. Warnock felt the Irish should have had a first-half penalty for a Barry Robson challenge on Heider Helgeson. When the two clashed after the break, he was more satisfied with the decision. Helgeson took the spot kick himself, and Rangers were ahead. Adel Tarap's midfield play is lighting up Loftus Road this season. The Moroccan won August Championship Player of the Month award. It was his cross for Ephraim soon after the first goal. Rangers have signed 2 more forwards since their last match. Neither Rob Hulse nor Tommy Smith were on show in this one. Instead, Jamie Mackey made a strong case for his own continued inclusion. That is 4th of the season. Rangers' great start just gets better.
It was a cracking game. But I thought that 20 minutes, like you said, we played some good stuff. And when you score the goals, I mean, the second goal was unbelievable, wasn't it? Great goal. So, you know, it was a good 3 points for us.
Looking for a first win of the season, Portsmouth may have hoped for opponents other than Ipswich. Town have won all 4 of their away League and Cup games this season. New signings Liam Lawrence and Dave Kitson made their Pompey bows, and both were involved as David Nugent had the home team's first real chance. He wasn't far away. Ipswich hadn't lost on any of their previous 12 league visits to Fratton Park, but they really should have gone ahead through Darren O'Dea. Not to be. An injury to Portsmouth skipper Aaron McQuenna was another blow in what's been a tough introduction to life in the Championship, but Pompey fans were relieved to see keeper Jamie Ashdown keep out a late chance for Town sub Connor Wickham, the promising teenager just back from injury himself. So Portsmouth pick up just their 2nd point of the season but remain bottom. For Ipswich, a 3rd straight clean sheet. They're now unbeaten in 7 in all competitions.
Nottingham Forest fans haven't been shy in voicing their concern at a lack of new signings this summer. Billy Davies' side were still looking for their first league win of the season as they welcome Millwall. Forest made a slow start to the last campaign, but this was to be a game where they would rue missed chances. First, Robert Earnshaw denied by David Ford's reactions. And you have to take your chances, especially against the league's joint leading scorers. Millwall made them pay. 5 minutes gone, and Steve Morrison's super start to the season continued, his 4th in the league this season. Forest have drawn their last 3 league games, and they were given the chance to draw level in this match when Nathan Tyson drew this rash challenge from Alan Dunn. Dexter Blackstock scored from the spot in his last match against Norwich, but this time it was one he'd rather forget. Millwall striker Neil Harris spent a brief spell at the City Ground earlier in his career, but he couldn't mark his return with a goal. Lee Camp believed not to be caught out by the striker's audacious long-range effort. Lions keeper Ford was in fine form, his goal under siege late on. Blackstock unlucky not to make amends for his earlier miss. But Forest are becoming the league's draw specialists, and they won a share of the spoils 10 minutes from time when Chris Cohen's looping cross was met by Blackstock. Forest's winless run continues. For Millwall, their impressive start to life back in the Championship goes on.
Yeah, Billy Davies said after that he was proud of Forest's performance, but on Thursday an extraordinary outburst where he said the lack of signings could cost him his job. And he's also saying the current squad, the players aren't good enough to mount a promotion challenge. But I understand there's simmerings and friction with him and this acquisition committee, but comments like that aren't going to do morale much good in the dressing room, surely.
If you looked at it in the face of it, you'd say no, but everybody knows what Billy's like. He's abrasive, and that's how he manages. So the players know that. I think what Billy's saying is that they need more depth. and they need a little bit more quality to go with the players that they've already got. They've got a great work ethic there. They did very well last season, but he feels they're going to drop off from that. And to keep them, the expectations of the fans, which is to get promotion, they need signings, and it's as simple as that.
But something's got to give, because he's clearly not happy. And that committee will be there for the foreseeable.
Absolutely. I mean, I heard the chief executive, I think, saying that they did everything they could to try and sign the players that he wanted, but they didn't manage to get any. So from Billy's point of view, they haven't tried hard enough. So he's going to keep going. Everybody knows he's not going to keep quiet. He's going to keep going on about it until he gets his players. They know that. The players know that. And they've got a good manager. And I'm sure that until he gets it, when he gets his players, he'll be happy.
One club that is recruiting like there's no tomorrow, Queen's Park Rangers. They've of course got Tommy Smith not that long ago from Portsmouth. But it was their current players on their books who helped them to a 3-0 win over Middlesbrough. Terrific performance, and it's ominous signs. 14 goals scored, 2 conceded. They're looking good value for money.
They certainly are. He went and signed two front players, Smith and Holtz, and the players reacted brilliantly. You know, Tarak, to I believe some people have felt has been a bit self-indulgent in his play. He's now become a part of the team, and a great finish by Hogan there, Fran.
It certainly make light of the bookies' odds, really, for Middlesbrough. I mean, that's what, 1 win in 5. Gordon Strachan has been left bewildered. What's going on there?
Well, you know, a lot of people made Middlesbrough favourites, and I couldn't really understand it, the way they finished last season. He brought a lot of players in from Scotland. They just haven't gelled it, and the way they rolled over, I think, is what's left Gordon bewildered. You know, sometimes you get beaten, you can accept it, but the way they got beat, you know, against QPR was not acceptable.
Derby put in similarly what Nigel Clough considered to be a poor performance, their worst of the season. They came unstuck against Sheffield United, and a second victory for Gary Speed. He's doing OK in his early days in management.
He certainly is. You know, I'm sure he's trying to change the way that Sheffield United play, but he's doing it slowly. I mean, this is a great cross, good finish from Mitchell Cresswell on the far post, just waiting patiently. But all 3 of his games have been 1-0. He's lost 1 and 1-2, so they're not conceding a lot, but it'll take time for Gary to evolve his sort of style.
Yeah, and just to update you on Aaron McQuain of Portsmouth, he was stretchered off, but he hasn't broken a bone, so at least that was good news for him, and a pretty gutsy performance against Ipswich. Now, will he stay or will he go? That's the question Scunthorpe fans have been asking themselves regarding the future of manager Nigel Adkins. For much of the week, it looked like the former club physio would be leaving Glanford Park to manage Southampton. Personal terms were agreed, but the 2 clubs couldn't settle on the level of compensation. So Adkins remains at Scunthorpe for the time being, at least.
A charm offensive to try and keep Nigel Adkins at Scunthorpe? Probably not. The bright lights of the St Mary's Stadium are drawing him in, but here with Scunny he was looking for a 3rd straight win in all competitions. The Iron were unlucky not to take the lead in this game, David James proving he's still a world-class shot stopper. Sam Togwell, the man denied. Bristol City need to get their skates on this season, still without a win, but in this game they took the lead against the run of play. Albert Adoma, stunning in his own half, began and finished the move that put the Robins 1-0 up at half-time. Adoma was playing for Barnet in League 2 last season. No surprise that City snapped him up. Luck wasn't on Scunthorpe's side though, as Michael O'Connor found out when his deflected free kick went the wrong side of the bar. Playing on the break, the visitors perhaps should have increased their lead, Jonathan Stead failing to put the game out of sight as he continues to look for his first goal since moving from Ipswich. It was down to David Clarkson to finally settle the nerves for City as they sealed their first win of the season in the 5th minute of injury time. For Adkins, a disappointing result to what could be his final game. His future could be resolved imminently.
Now, obviously, I think decisions need to be made because Scunthorpe have got a game on Tuesday. They've got to make sure there's direction, there's not enough scenarios going on and speculation. And exactly the same for Southampton. They've just found themselves in the bottom 4 of League One now. So they need to quickly make sure that they've got a leader in place to drive that football club forward, because it's a massive football club and it's a great opportunity for whoever goes in there.
More on Nigel Adkins in a second, but that was a much-needed win for Bristol City, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Keith Millen, yeah, it's got in there under difficult circumstances. But first win, that'll give him and his squad a bit of confidence.
They talk about loyalty being a dying commodity, I suppose you could say, in football, but what about Nigel Adkins? He's sticking to his principles here, isn't he? He wants compensation to be agreed before he even contemplates leaving Glanford Park.
Well, it's really nice to see, you know, some honour, some ethics, And you know, he wants to go, there's no doubt about it, but he wants to do it in the right way because he's been at Scunthorpe a long time. And I think it's also setting down a statement to Southampton that, you know, I'll do it the right way. And when I go in, if he does go in as manager, I'll do that job my way as well. I think that's really, really important. So, you know, well done to Nigel and his assistant, Andy Crosby. They've done a fantastic job at Scunthorpe and they deserve the opportunity. But he's doing it in the right way.
Do you see him eventually going?
Absolutely. I think you know, you asked me who should take over last week, and I said
you did say
he was perfect.
Yeah.
You know, he'd be perfect. He knows that division. He knows the players that are needed to get out of that division, and he'll be so much enthusiasm for it because he's been waiting for his opportunity, and he deserves it.
Right, the rest of the Championship now. We begin at Ellen Road, where Leeds, who are 6th, met a Swansea side looking for their first away win since March.
Their away record read no points and no goals. Swansea were at Leeds, and a quick look at the record books didn't offer much hope to the Welsh team. They hadn't won at Ellen Road in more than half a century. But Leeds have often been slow started this season, and they gifted the Swans the lead after 13 minutes. Richard Naylor's slip let in Stephen Dobbie, and he took full advantage. But Leeds have looked far from overawed since returning to the Championship. No league defeat since the opening day, and they were almost back in this one thanks to Bradley Johnson just before half-time. The midfielder could hardly have gone closer, and 10 minutes after the break he had another chance to claim his first of the season after Doris de Vries had done well to keep out Naylor's header. This time Johnson made sure. Leeds level then, and looking to win from a losing position for the 3rd time this season. The impressive Max Gradle was again involved. Lloyd Sam and Neil Kilkenny both had shots blocked, but Luciano Becchio beat de Vries at the 3rd time of asking. So Leeds' unbeaten home league run against Swansea stretches to 14 matches.
Delighted that we've showed sort of resilience and character to come from behind to win another game. It's obviously something we don't want to be doing too often because there's some good teams in the Championship, and you have to make sure you give yourself an opportunity to win the game.
We just had an 8-minute spell around the 57th minute and the first goal, and then obviously that changed a little bit of the momentum and got a quick second goal after that. So no, in terms of the result, it was disappointing, but again, our performance level was very good.
Both Norwich and Barnsley have been unbeaten since opening day defeats. Tykes boss Mark Robbins returning to one of his former clubs. And his team stunned the hosts on the stroke of half-time. Jay McEvely with a free header, his first goal for the club since signing in the summer. 3 of Norwich's 6 league goals before this game have come in stoppage time. It wasn't left so late this time. Stephen Foster's own goal levelling in the final 20 minutes. Sub Anthony McNamee had put in the cross for that one. He did the same again 10 minutes later. Chris Martin made sure of another win for the Canaries. He placed his shot 2-1, and Norwich are gaining confidence by the week.
Doncaster's only win at Vicarage Road was back in 1960 on their first league visit. Watford were hoping that bleak run would continue as they look for a first home victory this season. Not the ideal start, though, for the Hornets, who found Donny devastating on the counter-attack. It was a fine piece of hold-up play from John Oster, who played in Simon Gillett, to score his first goal in nearly 4 years. Watford had failed to score in their last 2 league matches, but striker Marvin Sordell's introduction in the second half would prove telling for Malky Mackay's side. It took him just 8 minutes to claim his first league goal of the season. The second came 7 minutes later, Sordell showing enough strength to turn Gillett and a clinical finish to beat Neil Sullivan on the keeper's 600th club career appearance. Watford fans were ready to celebrate a first win in 5, but that proved premature. George Friend stealing in the 3rd minute of stoppage time to nick a point. The Hornets are developing a worrying habit of conceding late on. 2-2.
After a promising start under George Burley, things have looked bleak for Crystal Palace in recent weeks. The Eagles went to Reading looking to arrest an away record that hadn't seen them win a point on the road this season. Reading in no mood for any favours either. Just before half-time, Shane Long's turn of pace caught out Paddy McCarthy, who hauled down the striker to give the home side a penalty. New boy and dead ball specialist Ian Hart hasn't been at the club long enough to request spot kick duties. Instead, Long himself stepped up to score his first of the season. Palace missing Edgar Davids for personal reasons, but Burnley did start with new loan signing James Vaughan. The on-loan Everton striker almost repaying his faith with the equaliser. But just after the hour mark, it was déjà vu for the Eagles, as Shane Long was again brought down for the second spot kick of the match. Julian Bennett, the Palace defender. This time Hart did take it, and he made no mistake, opening his account at the first time of asking. There was extra gloss to the scoreline when Jimmy Kebe wrapped up all 3 points, and the Royals' first home win in League or Cup this season. Their campaign now up and running, Palace's seems to have stalled.
Palace's worst start to a season in 6 years, but it's not often you get to see 2 different penalty takers in one game for the same side.
No, you don't, but a lot of managers don't like the same penalty taker, you know, if there's 2 penalties in the game. Or maybe Ian Hart is Irish, just like Shane Long, so he let him have it.
He let him have it to his compatriot.
Yeah.
But Reading are doing fantastically well, and for Shane Long, he was a key performer for them today. He drove them on as a lone striker. It's a thankless task in many ways sometimes.
Oh, of course it is, but Shane runs and runs and runs, and when he first went to the club, I thought he ran too much, in fact. He'd run away from good positions, but he's matured, and with Sigurdsson now going to Germany to play for $6 million, he's going to be key to that player, because he's now one of the more experienced performers, and he certainly showed that today.
Well, Shane Long won both penalties for Reading, including this one, which I don't even think he appealed for when he went down.
No, he didn't. I thought it was a great tackle when I first saw it, and you know, I've seen it again, I think it was a great tackle. He didn't appeal for it, he turns around, and but the referee deems it a penalty, and I think he's fortunate to get that. But Ian Hart, good signing, you know, lots of quality, never going to miss him there.
Lots of experience as well.
Absolutely, and from dead balls, he's terrific.
I think it was important for Reading to get a win after Gylfi Sigurdsson.
Absolutely, because I was so shocked, but I mean, they couldn't turn it down. Sigurdsson was a key player for them, but you know, they carried it on, and they've gained momentum. They've got good spirit there. Brian McDonald's got them playing decent football, and it doesn't show his loss.
I suppose we shouldn't be surprised to see 2 newly promoted sides in Leeds and Norwich doing ever so well in these early stages of the season. It's momentum at the end of the day from last campaign, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, I was more concerned about Leeds because they didn't really have that momentum. They kind of crawled over the line, but they shook that all off, and they're playing really good football. And with Norwich and Paul Lambert, they're playing a diamond system, which you don't see very often, certainly in the Championship, and it's working very well for them, and they're creating lots of chances.
Yeah, on the subject of newly promoted sides, we should also mention Millwall and their fantastic start to life in the 2nd tier. On to League One now. Sheffield Wednesday may have began the day top of the table, but it's been a traumatic week for the Owls. On Sunday, they suffered a surprise defeat to Brentford before narrowly avoiding administration in midweek after paying off an outstanding tax bill. So could they give their fans something to smile about with victory over second-place Carlisle?
After a flying start to the season, Wednesday's off-field problems are threatening to derail their promotion push. In fairness, the Owls got off lightly against a Carlisle side who should have given the scoreline a more convincing look. In the end, just the 1 goal was needed. Craig Curran's terrific strike, just reward for their first-half dominance. But it could have been far worse for Wednesday. Skipper Darren Pearce spared the embarrassment of an own goal by teammate Darren Potter. Carlisle's first ever win at Hillsborough. The Owls have lost 2 on the bounce.
We think we've performed really, really well today, and got a lot of positives for our team and our players to take from that, and you know, we need to try and continue that. You know, it's been probably a marker point for us today. You know, come to a size, a club this good, and the amount of quality they've got. But we thought we've, you know, competed really, really well, and possibly rued the fact we didn't get a second goal to close it down a bit earlier. But you know, it's a fantastic result for a club like us.
It's a nerve-wracking life down at London Road. Peterborough may have won 5 out of 5 on their own patch this season, but they can make it hard for themselves. A thunderous header from Richie Jones, his first goal for Oldham, had the Latics convinced they could continue their unbeaten start to the campaign. A belief which grew even stronger 7 minutes before half-time as Kieran Lee found Chris Taylor, who'd found the gap between 2 defenders. Posh 2-0 down for the 2nd home league game running. Last time, though, against Huddersfield, they recovered to win 4-2. So the alarm bells must have been ringing for Oldham when James Wesolowski pulled a goal back with the teams about to go to the break. And just after the hour mark, the comeback was accomplished. Chris Whelpdale's gigantic throw flicked in by Aaron McLean.
his 6th goal of the season, and now Peterborough really had the bit between their teeth. When Lee tried to play his way out of trouble, it proved to be a big mistake. George Boyd's finish unstoppable, rather like the team who'd left those early lapses far behind. Their impressive feat against Huddersfield repeated as Dave Hibbert took the score to 4. Posh had hit that many at home twice already this campaign, but there was still time to break new ground. Deep into stoppage time, Ruben Hazel hacked down Boyd, which put Grant McCann on the spot. Another fearsome attacking display from League One's new leaders, top of the pile with a flourish.
Southampton's ship has steered badly off course since Alan Pardew's surprise sacking. Dean Wilkins is keeping the seat warm ahead of the rumoured arrival of Scunthorpe's Nigel Adkins. The Saints haven't scored since Pardew went, although Aaron Martin came desperately close inside the first 3 minutes. Rock bottom and without a league win, the Robins forced their way back into things, and only an outstanding reflex save from Kelvin Davis denied Charlie Austin. But the Swindon striker had the last word with the only goal on 65 minutes. Austin would later go off with a shoulder injury, but it's Saints who are feeling the pain. They've slipped into the relegation zone.
No wonder Eddie Howe has decided to stay where he is. This South Coast club is on the up. Whilst Bournemouth have eased into life in League One, Dagenham are struggling to make the adjustment. Royce Wiggins played a starring role in this one, firstly setting up James Pearce to open his account for the season. Josh McCoy made sure of his weekly mention by adding Bournemouth's second 4 minutes later. Wiggins again caused problems down the left, and his pinpoint cross was met by the head of McCoy, who notched his 5th of the campaign. And Wiggins capped off a fine display with a goal of his own 10 minutes after the restart. After losing their opening 2 matches, Bournemouth are now unbeaten in 5. Dagenham yet to taste victory on the road.
So far, Andy Bond is one of the signings of the season. The 4th goal in his last 5 appearances for the midfielder drafted in from non-league Barrow had Colchester in front against Plymouth. But they were pegged back when Raider Johnson won his wrestling match 3 minutes after the break. A captain's contribution for an Argyle team struggling for goals, who ultimately were pleased with a point. They survived some close shaves and had to see out the final few minutes with 10 men after Lee Molyneux was sent off for a second booking. Colchester couldn't quite clinch victory, but remain unbeaten.
When your surname's Luar, you'd better have a good celebration lined up. Kazenga's first senior goal was a beauty, matched only by the acrobatics afterwards. Big brother Lomana has clearly taught him well. And having scored the first, Brighton's on-loan Newcastle winger then made the second 15 minutes from time. Glenn Murray couldn't miss. That was enough to end the Dons' recent good run. Seagulls boss Gus Poyet described this as his team's best performance yet.
Yeah, 1 defeat and 5 for Brighton. He likes playing for Brighton, doesn't he, Kazenga Luar?
Yes, he had a loan spell there, and he made an impression. He's gone back again, and he really did have a very good game. He tore NK Dons apart every time he got the ball.
Carlisle, I mean, these are good times at Brunton Park at the minute. JPT finalists last season. This year, 6 games into the season, and they're up there, and they even beat Sheffield Wednesday, you know, just league leaders not that long ago.
Absolutely. I was concerned for Greg when he lost Ian Hart and Joanne Ian, so they 2 key players for him last season, but he played some, he's brought Mikulik in and from Leeds, and they're keeping it going, and I'm really pleased because he's a nice guy, Greg. We know him very well, and they got a good goal here through Craig Cohen. And although it might seem like they snuck it, but they did play well and they deserved the result.
It's a great performance from Carlisle. On paper, Carlisle against Sheffield Wednesday, looking at the history of both clubs, they couldn't come in from much more different angles.
Yeah, but looking at how things are, Carlisle's a stable football club now. You know, yeah. Sheffield Wednesday going through all sorts of things, and staved off administration this week. That is always going to play on the minds of people, but hopefully they can come through it and start to perform as they did at the start of the season.
Southampton's misery goes on, and they came unstuck, didn't they, against Swindon. Charlie Austin who scored so many goals last season for them. He's lost his regular partner in Billy Painter, but he's getting on the score sheet himself.
Absolutely, you know, in Southampton, when things are going against you, they really do. Obviously, Charlie's got his goal. There was a foul on Fonte there, which the referee didn't see, and Dean Wilkins will be disappointed with that, because when you're down and things aren't going right, though, you don't get those decisions, and so they need to sort it out quickly. They need to get a manager in.
Yeah, as far as Swindon are concerned, I'm sure Danny Wilson will hope that will kick-start their season. Right, let's get more from League One, then starting with promotion favourites Huddersfield, who are at Leyton Orient. Town boss Lee Clark was desperate for an improved display after seeing his side concede 9 goals in the last 2 away games.
Mindful of that leaky defence, Huddersfield were off to a flyer in East London. Scott Arfield with a third-minute strike to remember. Certainly better than the goal his prolific teammate Jordan Rhodes claimed in the second half. That needed a huge deflection off Ben Chorley. The best was yet to come. It was just a shame for Orient that Dean Cox's stupendous effort ultimately counted for nothing.
A third straight win for Rochdale, who edged a topsy-turvy game at Spotland. Walsall were out of the traps early. John Macken, who turned 33 this week, fired them ahead on 4 minutes. But the lead was let slip quite literally when Johnny Brain failed to collect a corner. Celtic loanee Josh Thompson smashing in the equaliser on his home debut. With half-time looming, both teams rallied and produced 2 goals in a minute. Another mistake from Brain allowed Chris O'Grady's effort to slip through his fingers, presenting Anthony Elding with the easiest of tap-ins. Within seconds, Walsall hit back as Darren Byfield thumped in his first of the season. Not a bad way to open your account, 2-2 at half-time. But Rochdale were back in front midway through the second period. Referee Colin Webster ruled that Manny Smith's tackle on Gary Jones took place inside the box. And the Dale captain did the necessary to seal his side's first home win of the season. Keith Hill's men going along quite nicely.
Lee Hughes has enjoyed some great days in front of goal, but this wasn't one of them. An early miss of the season candidate for the Notts County target man was followed by a failure from the spot 15 minutes from time at the Valley. Rob Elliott with the save. And how expensive those misses proved to be. Just 9 minutes after coming on for his debut, Joanny Inser announced his arrival in South East London in style, plundering all 3 points for Charlton with just 5 minutes remaining.
Ryan Harley's in the form of his life, and it showed against Hartlepool, where he took just 12 minutes to score an outstanding goal, his 6th in as many appearances. The home side were pinning their hopes on a man who hadn't started up front for the best part of 9 years, club captain Richie Humphreys, who checked that Paul Jones was on his toes. The next time Humphreys had a good sight of goal, he couldn't be stopped, as Richard Duffy's attempted clearance proved disastrous. Humphreys on target for the first time since March 2008. There was no waiting around for Hartlepool's second of the game. Just 4 minutes later, Jones did well to keep out Colin Larkin, but Anthony Sweeney swept in the loose ball. All smiles now, but the grins were wiped off their faces just 3 minutes into the second half. Harley's cute through pass releasing John O'Flynn. Paul Tisdale's team hadn't won away in the league in their previous 15 attempts, but the manager insisted this week that he's now got the players to change that record, and he was spot on. 9 minutes after the equaliser, Exeter were back in front. O'Flynn second of the match. Hartlepool now heading for their 3rd successive league defeat, though Dennis Behan couldn't have gone closer to salvaging a draw.
Tranmere were blown away inside the first half hour at Hewish Park. They never looked like recovering after Dean Bowditch's first-time volley caught teenage keeper Joe Collister napping at his near post on 7 minutes. 3 minutes later, Tranmere still hadn't woken up. A simple long throw went all the way through to Andy Welsh, and the Glovers, who've had their problems scoring this season, were 2 up. They'd managed just 3 from 5 league games prior to this, but matched that inside 27 minutes when Paul Huntington bundled home his first since January 2008. A crumb of comfort late on for the visitors when Nathan Smith clipped the heels of Lucas Akins, but while Ian Thomas Moore rolled home a confident penalty, no doubt this was Yeoville's day.
Bristol Rovers had goalkeeper Mikel Anderson to thank for earning them a point against Brentford. Gary Sawyer's second-half dismissal didn't help matters, but for this challenge on Nicky Adams, he then had the referee reaching for his pocket 10 minutes later, this time for scything down Michael Spillane. Sawyer's wild attempt to get the ball, giving Scott Matheson no option but to show red. But despite their numerical advantage, Brentford couldn't find a winner. This one of several fine saves from Anderson, as Rovers held on for a share of the spoils.
Well, it was a good day all in all for a couple of those southwestern sides. We just saw Exeter and for Yeovil. Yeovil, actually, I mean, it's an interesting one because Terry Skiverton put a lot of emphasis on loan signings last season. I think he had 7 at one point. He's gone down the similar route. It's a bit of a gamble, this, isn't he? But 4 featured in today's game, 3-1 winners over Tranmere. He could have done with that because wins have been hard to come by this early on.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I said I was concerned about Yeovil, not because I don't think Terry chose to do it. I think he's got to do that because of the budgetary restraints. And when you try and do it a second time and rely on loans all the time, it's going to be very, very difficult. I mean, he had 6 loan signings in that squad today, and I just felt that it was going to be tough. So it was a good win, second home win of the season for Yeovil, and they've got to rely on their home form if they're to stay safe.
One of those is Gavin Williams, who's come back for a 3rd spell. He loves it at Hewish Park. As for Exeter, a terrific win against Hartlepool. And Ryan Harley, as we heard there, he is in the form of his life.
Well, he's a confidence player. When he's full of confidence, it just drips off him. He's arrogant, and he does things like this, which is absolutely exceptional. And if he can stay in that vein of form, he's going to score goals and he's going to create goals as well.
First away win in 16 games in almost a year for Exeter. I mean, that was the one major downfall for their season last time round.
Absolutely. You know, St James's Park, great atmosphere. They get over 4,000 on a regular basis. But if they can pick up a few away wins, you know, they could have a very good season.
Great week for Rochdale. Victory over Southampton last week and 3 goals against Walsall as well on Saturday. Well done to them. On to League Two then. It's been a difficult last 18 months for Stockport County. Relegated last season, they were teetering on the brink of extinction until a locally based consortium brought them out of administration in the summer. Clem's been to spend the day with the man who's taken on one of Football League's most challenging jobs.
Hey. Hello. All right. It's like a proper football pitch.
Clearing the UK's budget deficit, replacing Barbara Windsor in EastEnders. Even offering marriage guidance counselling to Wayne and Colleen might have proved less of a challenge for Paul Simpson.
I don't have a desk. This is the dungeon. My first challenge was to make sure that the players were all going to be here. We then had to deal with the state of the training ground and try and tidy that up. I had myself and my wife were in there for the first couple of weekends with all the cleaning stuff from home, making sure it was all tidy and a nicer place for the players to
I bet you any money you got out of cleaning the toilets, didn't you?
Well, I did, because that's something I've never enjoyed since my Manchester City days. That was
Wonder who got that job?
Yeah, unfortunately, Jackie took that on the chin.
Give me a hug, you.
Yeah,
I'm lovely, thank you. That's the job. Where are your marigolds? I hear you've been mucking in.
I know, I came without them today. I couldn't find any that matched the outfit.
You don't mind getting stuck in and helping the old fella then?
No, because it's one of those things, until he's all ship-shape, he can't get on with the job, and I wanted him to get on with the job as quickly as possible.
It's a family affair in more ways than one, isn't it? Because you've got your son Jake here, of course, which is a bit of a challenge, manager's son.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Jake played 20 games last season at Shrewsbury for us, and he did very well.
The resemblance is uncanny, Jake. You know that, don't you?
I've been told, yeah, and I believe it's more so when he was my age. I believe the pictures show that we look more like brothers than father and son. But I don't know if to take that as a compliment or not.
Right, I've got to try and remember the squad numbers.
The big problem at home is our eldest Joe being a referee. Match of the day, Saturday night, nightmare, because Joe will see one side of it, Paul and Jake will see the other side of it, and I just sit in the middle and cringe, really.
We're a football club that's tasted a better level of football, and we all have ambitions to get back there. How long it's going to take us, we don't know, but we're all rolling our sleeves up and giving it a right good go.
Buoyed by last week's win at Macclesfield, their first victory in 20 games, Stockport made most of the running, only to fall behind shortly before the hour. Bradford's Jake Spate could easily have gone down, but there was no need for a penalty, with Dave Sires all set to score his first league goal. The home side was saved by their top scorer George Donnelly's 4th of the campaign, the first Stockport have managed at home all season. And Bradford in the end were happy to leave with a point. Paul Turnbull whistling a shot just past the post that from Stockport's perspective would have made it an even better day out for all the family.
Paul, for all the challenges we discussed pre-match, signs that the real one is being won on the pitch?
Yeah, I think so. Character, we came back. It's the first time we've came back from a goal down, so we've got to take that as a positive, but we haven't tested the goalkeeper. We've had loads of chances and not hit the target, so it's going to be more shooting this week, I think.
You're not going to be all sullen for Mrs Simpson on the way home?
No, we've got a point, yeah. It's a win, it's a bit of a result, bit of a point, but we've got to keep building, we've got to be better. Simple as that.
Yeah, encouraging signs of Stockport and a much-needed point for Bradford. Elsewhere in League Two, Shrewsbury Town have made a terrific start in Graham Turner's second spell in charge. The leaders were looking to extend their unbeaten run to 6 games. In fact, the last time they managed that at the start of a campaign was in 1978, the year Turner took over as boss first time round.
Gillingham manager Andy Hessenthaler told his players to grow up after last week's 5-4 defeat at Bury, and the pre-season promotion favourites responded by ending the Shrews' unbeaten run. Chris Palmer getting the ball rolling on 12 minutes. The Gills were still awaiting their first league victory, so this performance was long overdue. It should have been even better early in the second half when Matt Sadler's handball gifted them a penalty. Adebayo Akinfen were trundled up, but lacked the power to beat Shrews keeper Chris Neal. But top of the table, Shrewsbury wouldn't get away with it again. Just before the hour, Craig Disley brought down Danny Spiller for a second Gills spot kick. And this time, Palmer stepped up to score his second of the match and his 4th of the season. Better this from Gillingham. Hessenthaler's message has clearly hit the target.
I'm delighted. Obviously, people say about being relieved about getting the first win. It's nice to get the first win, but there's a lot of belief in our dressing room that it was going to come.
Torquay boss Paul Buckle picked up League Two's Manager of the Month award before the Goals meeting with Accrington, and 13 proved to be his lucky number later on. Torquay's points total enough to take them back to the top of the table after being held at Plainmoor for the first time this season. Accrington, one of only a handful of sides yet to lose a league game this campaign, made life difficult. Sean McConville tested the reflexes of Scott Bevan, who was then sharp enough to prevent Andy Parkinson from turning in the rebound. Torquay were without the injured Elliot Benyon. His replacement Martin Gritton wasted the chance to grab all 3 points. Not one that will live long in the memory, a draw about right.
The bottom club Morecambe are still waiting for their first win of the season, despite giving Chesterfield a run for their money. Scott Brown's first goal for the Shrimps established an advantage they held until just 7 minutes from time, when Barry Roach was sharp to keep Craig Davis at bay, but the home side couldn't clear the danger. Eventually, Scott Bowden finished the job to maintain Chesterfield's unbeaten start to the campaign.
Gary Roberts celebrated signing a contract extension by grabbing the only goal as Port Vale claimed their first home league win of the season. A little bit of luck as his shot took a cruel deflection off Manny Panther, but Roberts' first goal since his summer signing from Rotherham was enough for Vale to inflict a first league defeat on the division's draw specialists, Aldershot.
Number 5 and captain Ryan Creswell.
No wonder Adam Lafondra is keen to get hold of the ball. With 5 league goals in August, he was named League Two's Player of the Month this week, but the match ball would be in the hands of someone else at the end of another Don Valley thriller. The goalfest started with less than a minute gone. Kevin Ellison's free kick finding its way past Adam Legsdins for his first of the season. The Millers' 100% record on home soil seemed safe enough when Exodus Gehagen's long throw was headed home by captain Ryan Creswell. And they were seemingly out of sight as they went 3-0 ahead 7 minutes before the break. Top scorer Lafondra, who's in the process of negotiating a new contract, bagged his 7th in all competitions. He was about to be upstaged by Burton striker Sean Harrod as the visitors launched a stunning comeback. Just a minute into the second half, Harrod threw them a lifeline, latching onto a long kick downfield. Last season's leading scorer lifted their spirits. Miller's boss Ronnie Moore fumed at the way his side fell apart in the second half, whilst admitting they may have got out of jail with a point. Johnny Mullins' foul on Jimmy Phillips gave Harrod the chance to grab his second and put Burton back in with a shout. Seven minutes from the end, Burton's comeback was complete when substitute Greg Pearson, on his 100th appearance for Burton, set up Harrod to complete his first ever senior hat-trick.
We thought we threw it away. We come out just playing for pride in the end, and in the end we could have nicked it, to be honest, and we had a few more chances. I could have had 4.
I think Ronnie Moore said afterwards that could be a very good point, but that might just cover what would have been an anxious and, well, what a punishing afternoon for him and his side.
Absolutely, 3-0 up, cruising, and they're a good side. Rotherham, obviously got to the playoff finals last year, and they got lots of experience. So that surprised me, that result when it came in. But full credit to Burton.
Yeah, and they wouldn't be surprised about Sean Harrod, top scorer for Burton Albion last season. Quality hat-trick, especially the last one, which was a great team effort. But all 3 goals, well, they were special in their own way, weren't they?
Well, yeah, the last one, the first one's a poacher's goal. Obviously, the second one is the penalty. But and you're chasing the game, and then you come up with that lovely little bit of play here. It's nice interchange, and a perfect finish. And so it shows that Burton have come a long way under Paul Pusher-Salido, and Sean Harrod. Nice way to get your first hat trick.
Port Vale have been very good away from home, and it was imperative they got their first win of the season at Vale Park, and they did so through a player who's been on trial there. He's had his ups and downs. But he's proving his worth to Mickey Adams.
He certainly is. I mean, Mickey's put him on a 6-month contract.
Gary Roberts, yeah.
I mean, my chairman once said to me, why don't you get all your players on 6-month contracts? And I said, well, Mr. Chairman, that can't happen. Sometimes it works for some players, and it certainly seems to be working for Gary Roberts.
Yeah, and very well done to Gillingham on getting their first win of the season. It's sod's law, according to the Football League, isn't it? They've been woefully out of form, and they beat the informed side of that division in Shrewsbury. On to the rest of League Two now, and before we get into the action, let's take a little look at how Crewe have progressed over the years. Now, don't tell me that Robbie Savage is going to get a mention here.
Formed in 1887 and named after Princess Alexandra, Crewe were nicknamed the Railwaymen. But in the 1930s they were known as the Blood Tubs because of their red shirts and tubby players. I am pushing that out, From 1892 to 1982 they finished bottom of the Football League 8 times, more than any other club. They've also faced re-election on 14 occasions. In fact, there was often so much of an air of gloom around the place that after their club record 13-2 defeat to Tottenham in the FA Cup in 1960, they sold commemorative logs to mark the defeat. There have, however, been lighter moments, like on Easter Monday 1948, when Crewe were awarded a penalty here at the railway end. Winger Fred Inskip stepped up and ballooned the ball not only over the bar, but right out of the ground and into a passing coal wagon, which eventually came to rest 150 miles away in Carlisle. And 10 years later, during a home defeat to York, the referee so incensed the crowd he had to sneak out of the ground dressed as a woman. Not a chance. In 1983, Milan-born Dario Gradi became manager. He turned the club into one of the finest production lines of football talent. And remember this 1987 dance anthem? Dario G were named after the Crewe manager, who stepped down in 2007 to become technical director. But after 2 failed successors, he's now back in charge, and today's match against Bury will be his 1,341st.
The long-serving gaffer would have enjoyed this one. Crewe's decent run continued against shaky Bury. Sean Miller with the opening goal on 3 minutes. That's his 4th of the season. Bury gave away 4 goals last week and need to work on the defensive side of their game, like picking up defenders at set pieces. David Artell won't score many easier. Not a happy return to his former haunt for Bury skipper Stephen Schumacher. The former Alex man had already been booked, so when he showed his studs in a challenge which left Calvin Zola on the floor, the second yellow meant a swift return to the dressing room. Grady's young side is showing considerable promise, and they made sure of the win 19 minutes from time. Again, Berry stretched a breaking point at the back, but nothing wrong with the finish from Luke Murphy, his first of the season. It says a lot that Berry's best player was their keeper, Cameron Belford. It's what's happening in front of him which must be worrying Berry boss Alan Knill. Joe Scarr's all over the place with this challenge on Nick Powell. Clayton Donaldson with the penalty, but Belford capping a fine personal performance by turning it over the bar.
Macclesfield picked up their first win of the season thanks to two stunning goals worthy of gracing any division. Colin Daniels' 10th minute screamer putting the Silkmen in the driving seat with his first of the season. Not to be outdone, Tyrone Barnett added a second 4 minutes later. The striker, a summer signing from Hensford Town, smashing home a memorable first goal for his new club. Macclesfield had only managed 3 goals in the league all season prior to today. Wycombe, looking to end a run of 4 consecutive draws, were given a glimmer of hope when Paul Morgan brought down Kevin Betsy. Scott Rendell scored from the spot, but Macclesfield held on for the win.
Southend arrived at Sixfields, having won their last 2 in the league. Anthony Grant was on the score sheet both times, so when he made it 3-3 on 57 minutes, Shrimpers fans must have been hoping that history was repeating itself. Instead, it served to inspire Northampton to their first win of the campaign. 6 minutes later, they were level. A hopeful punt towards the Southend box wasn't cleared, and Abdul Osman pounced for his first of the season. The winner, with 14 minutes remaining, was simplicity itself. An unchallenged header from a corner from Andy Holt. Simple, but extremely effective. Once in front, the self-belief began to flow. Osman almost put some daylight between the teams, only to hit the post. No matter, relief all round. The long wait finally over for manager Ian Sampson.
When we went 2-1 up, you could see the lads gained a little bit of confidence. They weren't as nervous on the ball. They actually started passing it to one another. But like we've always said with this group of players, they're a young squad, and they never seem to give up, which is you know, if they can improve their quality, that'll stand us in good stead.
3 home wins out of 3 for Cheltenham, who were forced to wait for their breakthrough by a spirited Stevenage side, but eventually worked an opening for a man in top form. 6 goals in 6 games for Wes Thomas, putting his side ahead with 21 minutes left. The result remained far from a foregone conclusion. From Peter Wynn's cross, Yemi Odubadi brought the best out of Scott Brown. The keeper's agility helped the Robins achieve their first clean sheet in 10 league games, while Stevenage finished on a low note. 2 late bookings meant Laurie Wilson got back to the dressing room slightly before his teammates, while the home side could reflect on a narrow success.
All I asked today was that we tried to do what we didn't do, and that was just do the basics right. We tried to pass it. It was very sticky out there, and I'm going to sort that out. But I'm delighted with what I think is the best performance of the season so far, best result of the season so far.
Hereford can't score and Oxford don't concede, so no prizes for guessing who took the points from this one. Oxford were comfortable throughout at Edgar Street. James Constable fresh from last week's hat-trick against Morecambe, putting United ahead after 35 minutes. After a tentative start to life back in the league, Chris Wilder's men are now settling well, and victory was confirmed just past the hour. Tom Craddock was a deadline day signing from Luton. He notched his first goal for the club in some style, much to the delight of his manager.
It's always good to see one of your new signings, especially if Ford get off the mark, and I thought it was a class goal. He's a bit behind in terms of the work that he needs to do, but thought he showed his quality, and overall excellent away performance, and we're doing all right.
Barnet really don't travel well. They'd lost their last 7 away league games, and after Joe De Vera squashed Drew Broughton at the far post, that miserable run looked likely to be extended. Ben Hutchinson on the score sheet for the second week running. Lincoln were on course for their first home win of the season, though they had a lot to thank goalkeeper Joe Anium for by the finish. A brilliant save from Jordan Parks was matched by an equally acrobatic stop in the second half, which thwarted Phil Walsh.
Yeah, great piece of goalkeeping there, and a much-needed win for Lincoln fans. Good win too for Cheltenham, who have continued to make progress this season. What a start Wes Thomas is having there.
Oh, fantastic start. You know, only scored 3 goals all season for Dagenham and Redbridge, and he's gone there, scored 6 already. And he's had a very, very good start. I mean, that's because Mark Yates sets his teams up in a really positive way, so he's reaping the benefits.
And for a side that's been away from the Football League for 4 years, Oxford United have done terrifically well. 2 good goals on Saturday. This second from a player who's played at the highest level, and it shows.
It certainly did show. Lovely little turn. First, you think he's got it stuck in between his legs. Is he going to hit it with his left foot? No. Outside of the right foot. Fantastic bit of technique. Ends up in the top corner. He'll be delighted with that.
Yeah, well done to Tom Craddock, who's played for Borough in the Premier League not that long ago. I should think Gary Simpson at Macclesfield would be a relieved man tonight.
Absolutely, get that first win and get it away from home as well. I'm sure sometimes when you do go away from home, there's less pressure, but he said that they've been working on their finishing. He played with a bit of pace, so they've gone there, been positive, and they got a great result.
It's interesting also, Dario Gradi was saying about Crewe to work on their finishing and score the goals when they create chances. 3 goals against Bury, sensational.
Absolutely, they created loads of chances in that game, and obviously they took 3 of them. He'll be delighted, but that's how Crewe play. They've played like that for many years under Dario, and they'll continue to do so.
I know Nick Powell got a star in the making, that's for sure. OK, well, it's certainly been a busy day in the N-Power Football League. Hardly surprising, then, to see a lot's changed across all 3 divisions. Torquay, Shrewsbury and Port Vale all sit level on points at the top of League 2, despite mixed results for the 3 of them. Chesterfield and Rotherham also failed to go to the summit after being held to draws. There were good wins, though, for Cheltenham and Oxford, as we mentioned. Morecambe stay bottom and are the only side in the league without a win. Mind you, they didn't start last season particularly well. 8 games without a win last season, but they still finished 4th, so they shouldn't be too downhearted. Hereford are also struggling down there, having scored just the 1 goal this campaign. Into League 1, it was a bad day for Sheffield Wednesday. They dropped from 1st to 6th, as the 5 teams above them all won, including 2 newly promoted sides, Bournemouth and Rochdale. Carlisle and Colchester are the only unbeaten sides left in that division. At the other end, Swindon move off the bottom and climb 9 places after their first win of the season at home to Southampton. That result puts Saints in the bottom 4, although both they and Dagenham and Redbridge have got a game in hand. Into the Championship, QPR and Cardiff pulled clear of Ipswich after the Tractor Boys were held to a goalless draw at Fratton Park, although all 3 sides remain unbeaten. A great start also for the 3 newly promoted sides. Look at that, all of them level on 10 points, including Burnley, after that unbelievable comeback against Preston. Portsmouth and Leicester stay rooted to the bottom despite their draws and are still looking for their first victory of the campaign. Forest are the only other side in the Championship without a win to their name. Now, don't forget, we're on the Red Button and on Freeview till midday. We're also on the iPlayer all week with match highlights on the BBC Sport website, which will also have the best of the midweek games in the Championship. And we're back next Saturday, and you'll be glad to hear it's at the slightly earlier time of 11:40. Well, my thanks to Leroy and to you for staying up with us. We'll see you next week.
What's it gonna